I was struggling to figure out what I wanted to talk about this week. Life has just been so crazy. I've been working a whole bunch, trying to juggle both of my jobs with classes as well. And, I finally have downtime, so I feel like as much as I've been working and as the semester's coming to an end, we got a lot of projects that I have to do. Things have just been getting crazy, and I think it's caused me to not have full access of ideas like I normally would when I'm able to recharge myself. And so, kind of the way that I've been getting inspiration for ideas lately is just like if I watch something throughout the week, like, what was that? Last week when I did the reaction to the social dilemma, I watched that documentary with no intentions of making a reaction video, but it felt necessary just because of how much it made me think and how I think it's just important information to pass on. So this week I just felt like also kind of got an idea from this mini documentary series on Netflix. I already am forgetting what it's called, but it's something with how like it's all about memories essentially. And just in general, like how the mind works. And I think I got through 3 episodes last night because they're only like 20 minutes per episode. And then the last one I watched, they were talking about anxiety, and talking about how they use the example of like a warthog, if that's the right type of animal. And when these hogs would see lions in the field, kind of like hidden in the trees or like behind a bush or something, and then they come and run and attack them, that triggered that anxiety to turn on in that warthog. And then they, it's pretty much fight or flight. And then they have the choice to either stay there and fight or run away for their lives. But it's always short-term anxiety that gets you through that moment. So in that way, like anxiety has a purpose, and from that memory of that warthog, he's going to not engage with the same surroundings. So like if he was walking by a familiar area of like trees or a bush where like he once saw a lion, he's probably going to avoid going to that area knowing that a lion's going to be hiding there. So in that way it keeps him safe. Anxiety was a good thing because he got away, he's still alive, and then he understands that for the future he's got to avoid things like that. But us humans, it seems that we get anxious over all the little things, all these things that we have to worry about, and we're giving ourselves this chronic amount of stress. And for me personally, I've always been an anxious person, and I really started to see it. No, well, now looking back, I didn't realize this when I was a kid, but that's where it started when I was a kid. And I would have to have my mother tell me, almost like on repetition. I'd have to keep asking her like what I was going to do the next day, what the plan was. I was always, I don't know, I was weird, dude. It was like fearing the unknown, and that traveled with me. And I would say like when I was a kid, those were like little mini panic attacks. But as I got older, it's kind of something that dipped off. And, I think I was still anxious. I didn't realize how much I was until then, like a few years ago is when things got really crazy and my anxiety was put out on display. So much so that I started to experience things that are called disassociation, derealization, depersonalization. Now, for people that don't really know any of those terms, it's really complicated to explain to a person who's never experienced them or doesn't know what they are. But I guess like in a general concept of all those things combined, disassociation, like there's minor forms of it. So like we all do the same thing where we may get caught daydreaming in our mind, and then you kind of like snap back to reality. That's kind of like a minor form of disassociation, and I think everybody has experienced that in their lifetime. But like the disassociation that is like a mental health issue and could be categorized as like an actual disorder, that is more like you don't feel intact with reality. You feel sort of like a passenger in this lifetime. Depersonalization is you don't really identify with who you are. You don't feel like you are a real person. Derealization, kind of again with disassociation, the material world or the physical world, the reality that's around you doesn't seem like it's real. And again, it's hard to describe to people because instantly as you say that, people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're tripping out, Cole. Like, what are you saying? It's hard to explain if you haven't gone through it yourself, and just know that a person that is really anxious will probably experience something with disassociation, derealization, depersonalization. To have so much anxiety going on inside your brain, filling your life like that for an extended period of time, is going to put you in a place like that. Also, factors of like not getting enough sleep, drinking too much caffeine, not eating healthy, not exercising, those can all add up too to make you feel, more just like, I don't even know, numb. It's a weird feeling. Like, it's a weird feeling to describe. I don't get it to the extreme cases anymore, but I still feel it like on a smaller level. Like, sometimes if I'm not careful throughout my day, I'll just kind of wander off in my own mind. And I think the scariest thing about it too is being an anxious, in a self conscious person is, when you're around people and you're feeling that way, and then, you're not really present in the conversation that they're having, or like if they're talking to you, and then you start to worry about, if people are noticing that you feel off. That's happened to me a lot of times and still does. I think it's also an aspect of like social anxiety too, is that it's weird. Like, I'm an extrovert. I like talking to people. That's how I get my energy. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of times where I can be too anxious around people or large groups of people, social situations, and just makes me feel anxious. And then I feel like I have to say the right thing, say the perfect thing, and it's just a waste of time because that's never the case. There's not a perfect thing to say. You shouldn't feel like you have to talk. It should just be a natural conversation. But my point is like, as humans living in this modern day and age, like a lot of our needs, like our basic needs that our ancestors had to fight for, like shelter, food, those sorts of things, pretty much kept up, unless, like you're homeless, or like you kind of have like a tough situation where, maybe you're still fighting to secure those things. But our brains haven't changed. Like, we still have that deep, deep reptilian brain to us that reacts to anxiety in a weird way. And now we're just becoming, since we're not like in our natural habitat of like, having to run away from lions and saber-toothed tigers and worry about snakes biting us, things like that. Now our anxious, worried mind goes to the life that we're currently living. And then also being on phones too, it's like we're in this hyper stimulated day and age, and so it's really easy to be anxious about everything. And it's also deals with your habits too. Like, if you constantly scroll and check your phone, what you're doing is teaching your mind to be more distracted, to chase distractions, to chase thoughts and things of that nature. And so, yeah, it's I don't know. I wish I could map it out for everybody that hasn't experienced. And I would never wish that anybody experiences dissociation to that extreme level, derealization, depersonalization, because it's freaky. And I mean, no matter how much progress I've made since last year. That's really when it was tipping off. Even though I've made a shit ton of progress from that point, anytime I experience anxiety that starts to ramp up to that level or make me feel like I'm going through situations like that again, it's still scary. Like even though I've had it happen to me so many times, it's still frightening, man. I empathize with everybody that has, some sort of like general anxiety disorder. I mean, mental health in general, man, like it's it's so weird. Like I guess I don't know. You guys have probably heard about it on some of my podcasts. I don't know if I've gone into it too deep, but I struggled with mental health. Really, the like I said, the tip off point was last year. But I think just the way that I was raised, the way that I was conditioned, and not even in a bad way, like my parents meant for me to be this way. It's just the circumstances of what I dealt with as a kid, being triggered, being anxious, being fearful from things that had happened to me led me to just carry this way of operating. Like that's just the DNA, that's the hard drive that I'm operating with. And so, to go in to be 23 and to face these situations that pull more of that out of me, I didn't know how to deal with my anxiety or my depression, or not even, I couldn't even acknowledge that it was a thing until it was finally time to do so. Because once you do that, that's really, I think, the biggest and maybe most monumental step in having things start to become better for you, is that you acknowledge it, you talk about it, you're open with it to other people, and it's always going to be a fight. That's the thing too, is like, I don't know, I'm always fearful that I'll go back to the really anxious person that I was of last year, or I'll become depressed again like I was last year. But at the same time, I have to acknowledge like how far I've come, how much progress I've made, and just have faith in myself that I can get through any situation. And what they were talking about on this documentary series last night, and the 3 episodes that I got into, is like social media and all those things have made us become more anxious. So yeah, the tool is recognizing that like our mind is one big distraction, but everything else that we choose to do can add to that distraction and make us more distracted. So I think that once we take away those distractions, we put ourselves in a place of meditation, and we become immersed with our mind and finding out what the patterns are, and realizing that you'll just be sitting there. And it's frustrating with meditation because I haven't gotten back to the place that I found last year when I was up in Ames. I talk about it so many times on this channel, but there is a place, that the closest place I have found in my mind to serenity, to peace, to understanding, where you see, I mean, anxiety is still a thing, even though you get really good at meditation, but you're present with your thoughts. You don't attach yourself to your thoughts. I mean, through enough training in meditation, and then also your lifestyle choices, you see that the mind just predominantly is exposed to wandering about in such a way that you can't really control. But that is the most profound revelation that you could have, because then you can detach yourself. And once you see, like, once you've practiced in meditation, like your thoughts trail off, and then you notice that you're in a loop of thought, then you bring yourself back to something else to focus on, like the breath or your posture or the sensations and those things. And then in that way, you're just slowly training yourself, and that's going to apply into your waking life. So you'll get caught up in a series of thoughts, or you'll kind of run off, but then you'll kind of snap back and be like, oh, see, like that, I was just distracted there. Like my mind was just kind of like distracted or preoccupied. But then you come back to the present. when I was doing very well with meditation up in Ames, I remember a lot from that time frame, and I think it's because when you meditate and get away from your phone, your focus becomes more enhanced, more attuned, you're more attentive to everything. So I remember a lot of the conversations that I had during that time frame at work or with Dakota at the apartment, and it was because I saw my distractions and I did not give in to my distractions. And so I guess that's my hope moving forward. And then, just kind of wrapping up this whole thing with anxiety. I didn't really know where the topic would go. I don't even know if I'll post this video, to be honest with you. But the thing to realize is that for all the people that are anxious out there, including myself, that's why I make videos about this, things that are personal to me that I've experienced, because I can only give my experience and hopefully I can help other people. I'm hoping that we can all recognize that anxiety could be a tool for us, and we just have to change the way we think about it. Anxiety, I think Sam Harris talks about it in this way, like anxiety is so close on the emotional ladder or spectrum to the feeling of excitement. It's just that we as humans have decided that there's this negative association with being anxious, and so when we become anxious we start to ruminate more, we start to get worried about the anxiety that we're experiencing, and in that way it's this spiral of just creating more anxiety for yourself. You get anxious about being anxious. It's like a positive feedback loop. I have troubles with this being like an OCD person, wanting to control things. I'm a control freak, and so you have a thought that's kind of distasteful, and then you just keep interacting with it, and you're like, what the fuck happened? Why did this thought exist? And then you just spiral in your own head. It's a crazy experience. But yeah, the way to tame that, or somewhat turn down the volume, is just figuring out that anxiety is a thing. It's not something that we can get rid of, and we have to see it differently and experience it and realize that we will be fine once the anxiety falls away. You just have to train your conditioned mind that's become anxious over the years, and that's why I talk about my experiences growing up, and I'm not going to put anybody on blast. It's just, again, circumstances with my parents, being terrified of my father. It left me to, that's just the switch that's on in my brain, is that I'm more predisposed to experiencing anxiety and probably getting anxious about things that other people wouldn't think about. It's like it's a double-edged sword, because I think that from all those experiences, and I guess you could even say trauma in some sense, I wouldn't say that my childhood was terrible. It's just that I was terrified as a kid, and I think it kept me in that anxious state of mind. But being a double-edged sword, it's also made me a really creative person, because it's made me just think outside of the box. And, from all that trauma, I think it creates exceptional people. Like, you look at all the comedians and they have something wrong with them. A lot of them have dealt with mental health, and they use comedy as a way to express themselves. I think that from everything that happened to me as a kid, that's what makes me so special today. But at the same time, it's also like it's what makes me constantly on edge, or triggered, or about to experience anxiety. And thank God that, like, over the last year I haven't well, yeah, I don't know, it's been a while since, like, I've had like a signature panic attack. Pretty good at controlling them now, or not letting them happen. Sometimes you feel like you're out of control, but yeah. So anyways, that's just my take. Again, I had really no clue as to where this video would go, what the hell I would talk about. If you guys are more interested in these sorts of videos, or like these topics that I'm speaking of, and you want me to dive in a little bit more, leave it in the comments, message me, whatever. I'm really trying to focus on this channel, and I mean, I've said that over the last month, and I've started creating different types of videos, like more scenery with the nature ones that I do, and I do the audio over the visuals, and then I just have these videos where I'm talking about certain subjects, and then obviously we have the podcast, and I want to get back into the podcast. It's just been hard. It's been hard with Corona. it's still a thing, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. Like, I understand that people are not going to necessarily want to meet up with me, or it's just going to be hard. Everybody's, I wouldn't say we're so busy anymore. It's just that everybody's leading their own separate individual lives. And I think that as a podcast, it's not that I'm very big at the moment. I haven't got my name out there too much. And so it's just hard to coordinate those things. Like, I have people that are interested in coming on, but like a series of events may happen and they may have to postpone, and then we just don't get back to it. And then on top of that, like, I'm working a whole bunch. And like I said, classes end in the beginning of December, and I have 3 projects that I have to kind of iron out in this next month and finish. And so it's like, although I want to be talking to people, I would love to be doing podcasts. That's the reason why I started this channel, getting on YouTube and all that. But it's going to be hard right now, and I think that that's what's happened over the last month or so, and that's why I've had to resort in making different types of videos. So either way, it's cool because they're all different in some ways, and I'm always open to different ideas. Whatever comes to me, whatever I think would work for the channel, I kind of go for it. But believe me, I'm excited to talk to people, and I miss that. And I think that that's what, like I said earlier, being an extrovert, that's what keeps me alive. That energy that you exchange between another person, another life form, another human. But like I said, yeah, those are the plans for the future. I know we'll get back to the podcast at some point, maybe in December too, because I'll have a month off from school. But yeah, I mean, I apologize for not being able to put out as much content as I would like to. It's just going to depend on the finishing of this semester, and the next semester is my last semester at Simpson and in college probably in general, unless I decide to go on and do something else. And it's just crazy. I'll probably make some videos about that and just my life experience and kind of the road I took to get there. It's crazy, man. It's weird, but I have to finish. Like, I can't slack off. I gotta finish this semester and then finish next semester, and then I'll do a May term, and then I'll graduate. So yeah, anyways, I thank all of you for the support, whether you're following me on my YouTube channel or you listen to my podcast on the Apple Podcast app or Spotify. This is my dream as of now. I mean, there's so many things that we can all do in this lifetime. I'm never going to limit myself to one thing. But I think that YouTube, the podcast, these videos, all of it has really just given me an avenue to be creative, but then to also express myself and just have a platform too. And I'm just going to continue to work hard. I know that in this life, everything is built on ebb and flows. Like, I've kind of been feeling off recently, kind of felt like I've been in a rut, but I know that things will change if I continue to work hard. And those feelings are only temporary. They don't last forever. Same thing with low points and high points. Like, all my successes, they happen and they were great, but I have to repeat them, and maybe not even to the same extent. I have to keep working. It never stops. The time keeps evolving, time keeps changing. But I am super appreciative of everybody that supported me up until this point, and I just want to continue to, just give you guys things that are helpful for you. I share my experiences and hope that somebody else can resonate with it or it can help them. I know that with mental health, it was a scary battle to discover a lot of those things. I didn't know what disassociation was. I didn't know what emotional abuse was. I didn't know what gaslighting was. There was a lot of things that I didn't know what they were, because society in general, yes, we're becoming more open to talking about mental health and anxiety, but I didn't get that coaching as a kid in high school. And then being on these phones, it was all new technology that we had to figure out. And these are just life lessons that I had to learn the hard way, because no one was going to teach them to me. That is just, unfortunately, that's how it is. But if I could share my experiences and save some people some hurt, I would definitely like to do that. And this channel, it's mostly about mental health, but also like self-improvement and, again, talking about the things that I've been doing recently. So anyways, that's all I got for now. We'll see what happens with this video, if I post it or not. But again, thank you guys so much for your support, and please like and subscribe. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, share it. Something that I always forget to say just kind of popped up there in my head there at the end. All right, guys, I fucking love you, and I will see you soon.